Most people think you need a fancy degree, a silver spoon, or a 10-step business plan to become successful. But let me tell you the truth. None of that matters if you've got grit. The real game starts when you realize that success isn't about how you begin. It's about how determined you are to finish well. Imagine being 16, sitting in a dull classroom, knowing deep down that what you're learning has nothing to do with the life you want to build. The textbooks are outdated, the teachers don't get it, and the system is teaching you how to be average. You're told to memorize facts, pass exams, and get a safe job. But deep down, you know you're not built for that route. You're not lazy. You're just meant for something different. That's not a failure. That's a clue. Dropping out of school isn't the end of the road. For some, it's the beginning of a real education, the kind where life slaps you around a bit, where you learn by doing, failing, adjusting, and repeating. When you leave school early, you enter the real world early. That can either crush you or shape you. And if you've got the right mentality, it shapes you into a winner. Now, let's be clear. It's not easy. Well, when you don't have a degree to wave around, you've got to prove yourself every single day. You start from the bottom. And I'm not talking about some trendy, started from the bottom, social media post. Making less than you 2 an hour, doing hard, boring work, while others think you've already failed in life. But here's the twist. That struggle is your advantage. Because when you've got nothing, you learn to build something out of anything. You develop resourcefulness. You learn how to stretch a dollar, solve problems, and out people who feel too entitled to get their hands dirty. The world is full of people with shiny degrees who never learn to think for themselves. Well, but when you come from the trenches, you develop a builder's mindset. You don't wait for opportunities. You make them. You start with whatever you've got, even if it's just a screwdriver and a sketchy business idea, and you work like your future depends on it. Because it does. You might start with one product. Maybe you're selling toys, repairing electronics, or flipping cheap gadgets. You learn how to talk to customers. You learn how to negotiate. You learn how to deal with returns, complaints, and weird requests. Bit by bit, those small lessons add up. You begin to understand how business works in real life, not in textbooks. Well, but in the wild. That's the kind of education that actually pays off. Over time. The game changes. The little hustle turns into a side business. Well, the side business becomes your full-time gig. You learn how to scale, you hire a team, you reinvest your profits. Well, and one day you wake up and realize you're not working a job anymore. You've built something. You've owned something. You've created freedom for yourself. And here's the best part on, you didn't need a degree, a rich family, or a lucky break. You needed vision, action, and consistency. You needed to block out the noise. The people who told you it wouldn't work, the ones who laughed when you said you were starting a business, the ones who said, just get a normal job and be realistic. You tuned them out, stayed focused, and bet on yourself. That's what the entrepreneur mentality looks like, especially when it's born out of adversity. It's about seeing your disadvantages as fuel. It's about understanding that dropping out of school doesn't make you a dropout in life. It means you chose to write your own curriculum. You chose to learn from the streets, the customers, the mistakes, and the small wins that school never taught you about. People will say you got lucky. They'll see the success, the car, the house, well, the business, and they'll never understand the grind behind it. They didn't see the early mornings and the sleepless nights. They didn't see you risking your last few bucks on a biz that everyone doubted. But that's okay, because you saw it. You believed in it when nobody else did. And that's why you made it. Most people dream about starting a business, but they never do it. They overthink, they wait for the perfect time, or they convince themselves they're not ready. The truth is, there's never a perfect time. You start where you are, what you've got, and you figure it out as you go. That's exactly how real businesses are built. Not in theory, not in some college group project, but in the real world where the only way to survive is to deliver value and solve problems. The road to building a multi-million-dollar business doesn't begin with a big loan or a team of experts. It usually starts with one person, one product, and one burning question. How can I make this work? It might be remote control toys, repair services, print, on-demand, digital products, anything. As long as someone needs it and you're willing to go all in to supply it. Building something big often starts by building something small. But doing it well, you get obsessed with customer experience. You test packaging, you learn marketing from scratch, you watch YouTube videos to understand SEO, you figure out how to build a basic website. Even if it looks like it was made in 2003, you're not trying to be perfect. You're not trying to improve with every sale, every mistake, every single day. That's how you build momentum. You don't need 1,000 ideas. You need one good idea that you're willing to execute relentlessly. Too many people get caught up in shiny object syndrome. They start something, then drop it when it doesn't blow up in a month. Real entrepreneurs stick it out. They learn from every failed product, every fund request, every lost customer. They treat problems like puzzles, not roadblocks. As the business starts growing, your thinking needs to grow with it. You stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a system builder. How can you automate this? How can you delegate that? You hire your first employee. Maybe it's your cousin. Maybe it's someone on Fiverr. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're now moving from self-employed to business owner, and that's a massive shift. A real business isn't just about selling products. It's about building infrastructure. You start tracking expenses properly. You learn about inventory. You negotiate with suppliers. Well, you deal with taxes. You learn how to reinvest wisely instead of blowing your profits on flashy nonsense. You don't take a big paycheck at the start because you know the business needs to grow. And when it grows, you grow with it. Then comes the phase where people finally start to notice. You go from selling a few units a week to fulfilling bulk orders. People ask you how you did it. Some assume you got lucky. They don't see the years you spent staying up late, reading contracts, dealing with shipping errors, handling complaints, fixing broken websites, and cold emailing suppliers while everyone else was at the pub or sleeping in. You realize that what made your business successful wasn't some secret formula. It was the consistency of effort and the willingness to learn every damn thing no one else wanted to bother with. Every setback made you sharper. Every problem forced you to evolve. And bit by bit, the thing you started from your bedroom, garage, or kitchen table has turned into a machine, not just a hustle, a real thriving, cash-flowing business. Then comes scale. You start your second business, maybe in a different niche, maybe targeting a different market. But now you've got experience. You understand what works. You've got systems. You've built a brand. You start to multiply what used to take you years. And now it only takes you months. And with every new business, you get faster, smarter, more strategic. You don't work harder. You work better. You're no longer building just for survival. Now you're building for freedom. Freedom of time. Freedom of money. Freedom to say no to things you used to tolerate. You can walk away from clients who drain your energy. You can turn down deals that don't align with your vision. You're not just chasing sales anymore. You're chasing impact. You're thinking about legacy. You're thinking about how to turn income into investments, how to build something that lasts even when you're not there to run it. It's a long game, but it's a real one. There are no shortcuts, but there are smart decisions. There are no guaranteed wins, but there are proven principles. And when you apply them day after day, year after year, that small business, the one you started with barely any cash and 0 followers, can grow into something worth millions, not just in money, but in freedom, in confidence, in power, and in purpose. The internet is full of noise. People flashing rented cars, throwing cash around, claim they got rich in 6 weeks by clicking a few buttons. But the truth is, real financial freedom takes education, and not the kind you get in school. It takes someone who's walked the path, made the mistakes, and now teaches from experience, not theory, but from the grind. And that's the opportunity the internet gave us. In the past, if you wanted to learn about business, investing, or money, you had to buy expensive courses, read outdated textbooks, or rely on advice from people who'd never actually done it. But now you can open your phone and get lessons from someone who's built it from the ground up. You can learn about compounding, side hustles, investing, cash flow, and mindset, all in simple language that actually makes sense. Financial education online isn't about showing off. It's about breaking things down so that ordinary people can win. People who didn't grow up with rich parents, people who didn't go to business school, people who got left behind by the system but still want to get ahead. That's who it's for. And that's who it's changing. The goal isn't to tell people to get rich quick. It's to show them how to stop being broke forever. That means teaching them how to stop living paycheck to paycheck, how to stop spending more than they earn, how to escape the cycle of trading time for money without any long-term plan. Because once people understand how money really works, they start making different choices, smarter ones. It starts with basics, but the kind of basics most people were never taught, like the difference between assets and liabilities, the power of compound interest. Why saving alone won't make you rich, but investing will. Why budgeting isn't about being cheap. It's about being in control. And the beauty of doing this online is that these lessons reach millions, not just a few students in a classroom. Well, anyone with an internet connection can start changing their financial life for free. There's also the mindset part. Because let's be honest, half the reason people stay broke is not a money problem. It's a thinking problem. They believe wealth is for other people. They think success is all luck. They think starting a business is risky, but working 40 years for someone else is safe. So the first step is to reprogram their beliefs, to remind them that they're not stuck, they're not late, and they're not dumb to learn this stuff. They just haven't been taught it properly yet. The online world is also powerful because of its speed. You can reach someone in Pakistan, the UK, the US, or India all at once. You can post a video about how to start a side hustle with no money, and within hours, thousands of people might be trying it. You can explain how to invest your first $100, and within minutes, someone who thought investing was only for the rich now feels confident to get started. That's impact. That's financial literacy at work. And let's not forget relatability. People don't want advice from someone in a who talks in big corporate terms. They want real talk, simple language, clear steps, no fluff. Well, that's what works. You don't need to sound like a professor. You need to sound like a friend who's figured it out and wants to help others win too. The value of teaching online is also in showing the journey, not just the destination. People respect transparency. They want to see where you started. The small room, the basic equipment, the struggles, the failures. When you show them that, they believe they can do it too. And once they believe it, they start moving. They start saving. They start investing. They stop buying liabilities and start building something that pays them back. Teaching online is also a business in itself. And that's part of the lesson. You're not just helping others become financially free, you're also building multiple income streams yourself. Add revenue, affiliate marketing, brand partnerships, digital products. These are all ways to take your knowledge and turn it into income while still keeping your content free for the people who need it most. It becomes a win-win. You grow your audience, you grow your brand, and at the same time, thousands of people who have stayed broke, confused, and discouraged are now building businesses, investing wisely, managing their money, and changing their families' futures, all because you decided to share what you've learned, not from a pedestal, but from experience. Not in theory, but in action. Not to look smart, but to make others smart enough to take control of their financial future. Everyone talks about becoming a millionaire. Social media is flooded with get rich, quick gurus flashing Lambos and telling you to aim for 7 figures in your sleep. But here's the truth, most of them won't tell you the first $100 thousand is the hardest, and it's also the most important. Why? Because getting to your first 6 figures isn't just about money. It's about discipline, habits, and mindset. It's where you learn how to manage your income, how to invest it wisely, and how to stay focused when the results come in slow. That first 100K is where you lay the foundation for everything else. Without it, the rest doesn't matter. Well, most people never reach that point. Not because they're not smart, but because they get distracted. They jump from one shiny idea to the next, chasing the next hack or trend without ever sticking to one plan long enough to see real results. They think 6 figures will come from one viral video, one magic coin, or one lucky break. But the people who actually get there know it comes from small, consistent, boring steps done over and over again. It starts with learning to live below your means, not forever, but for long enough to build a solid base. You cut out the useless spending. You skip the designer clothes, the overpriced gadgets, the latest phone you don't even need. Not because you're cheap, but because you've got a goal. And that goal is freedom. Every pound, dollar, or root that you don't waste is fuel for your financial engine. It's money that can be saved, invested, and multiplied. The first step to $100 is increasing your income, not just pinching pennies. Well, you don't just save your way there. You earn your way there. You start a side hustle. You sell stuff online. You take extra shifts. You learn new skills that actually make money, not random certifications, but high demand, practical knowledge that solves real problems. And when the money starts coming in, you don't blow it, you stack it. Then comes the power move, investing early and consistently. Even if you're only putting in 50 a week, it adds up. You learn to put your money into things that grow, index funds, dividend stocks, simple and boring investments that don't look exciting, but compound over time. Well, and that's the key word, compound. Compound interest doesn't just apply to money. It applies to your habits, your mindset, your network, and your momentum. People always ask, why not aim higher than $100? The answer is simply, if you can't manage 10K, you won't manage $1 million. If you don't learn discipline now, more money will just multiply your mistakes. The first $1,000 is where you build your money muscles. It's where you learn to budget, invest, resist temptation, and stay focused on a long-term goal when the world around you is obsessed with instant gratification. You start to see money differently. It's no longer something you chase emotionally. It's something you use strategically. You stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, is this moving me closer to financial freedom? You start thinking in terms of opportunity cost. That $200 you spend on new trainers could have been $300 next year if you'd invested it. That $500 impulse buy could have been part of your emergency fund or seed money for your business. And once you start stacking wins, you get addicted to progress, not in a greedy way. In a focused way, you realize that hitting your first $10 didn't change your life, but it changed your belief. It showed you that you can do it. And then the next 10 to K comes faster. The learning curve flattens. The systems get smoother. You're no longer guessing. You're executing. You also realize that wealth isn't just about cash. It's about control. The moment you stop living paycheck to paycheck and start seeing your savings grow, your confidence explodes. Well, you stop relying on luck. You stop fearing layoffs, bills, or emergencies. You've built a safety net. You've built breathing room. And that breathing room gives you options to quit a job you hate, to take risks, to invest in bigger things. The goal isn't just to have $100, thousands sitting in a bank account. The goal is to become the kind of person who can create it, protect it, and grow it. That kind of person can do it again and again. Whether it's through a business, investing, or a mix of both. Once you've built it, once you have the blueprint, you understand what works. You don't get excited by quick wins anymore. You think long term, you play the real game. If you're relying on one income stream, you're one bad day away from disaster. It doesn't matter how stable your job feels, how high your salary is, or how loyal your boss seems. The truth is, if one source pays all your bills, you're not in control. That's not freedom. That's financial dependency dressed up as security. Well, the people who build real wealth, the kind that lasts, don't depend on a single paycheck. They think in layers. They build multiple income streams, each one designed to protect the others. If one slows down, the others keep flowing. That's not luck. That's a strategy. Start with your main income. Most people call this their job. There's nothing wrong with a job. In fact, it can be your first investor. But if you treat it like your only plan, you're walking a tightrope without a safety net. That job could disappear tomorrow. One policy change, one economic dip, one merger, and suddenly you're scrambling. That's why smart people turn their job income into leverage, not lifestyle. They use it to fund the second stream, a side hustle. This could be anything. Selling digital products, freelancing, drop shipping, affiliate marketing, tutoring, flipping phones, building a YouTube channel, or running a small online store. The key is to start small and scale fast. Well, you're not trying to retire from it on day one. You're trying to learn the game of business, how to serve customers, market a product, and keep more than you spend. The third stream most people sleep on is investments, not gambling, not hoping your crypto coin tanks is over. I'm talking about boring, consistent investing, stocks, ETF, real estate, divide and paying assets that grow over time and pay you whether you're working or not. This is how you turn active income into passive income. Even if you start with small amounts, 50, 100 a month, the goal is to build a habit, not a miracle. Over time, the money starts working harder than you do. Then there's digital content, one of the most underrated income streams of this era. If you've got a skill, a store, or a strong opinion, you can build an audience. With that audience comes opportunity, ad revenue, sponsorships, product sale coaching, community memberships. The best part, once content is created, it can earn for you $247. Even while you sleep, one good video can pay for months. One solid blog post can rank for years. And this isn't about becoming famous. It's about becoming valuable. Another stream that can't be ignored is affiliate income. This is where you promote products or services you believe in, And when someone buys through your link, you get paid. It sounds simple because it is, but it works best when you build trust with your audience. People buy from people they like and respect. That's why integrity matters. Push garbage and your audience disappears. Share things that help them and they'll keep coming back. Why? And buying. Then there's intellectual property, ebooks, courses, templates, tools, things you build once and sell forever. You don't need to be a genius or a guru. You just need to solve a problem people are already looking to fix. Package the solution in a way that's clear and useful, and you've got yourself another income stream, and one that scales without burnout. Let's not forget about real estate. This isn't about becoming a landlord with 10 mortgages right away. It can start small. A rental room, a property share, or RIAs, the real estate investment trusts that let you invest in property without owning any physical buildings. Over time, real estate builds wealth quietly through appreciation and rent. It's slow, but it's solid. The goal isn't juggle 10 businesses at once like a circus act. The goal is to build one stream, stabilize it, then use the cash and knowledge to build the next. Stack them, strengthen them, make sure each one serves a purpose. One for daily income, one for long-term wealth, one for creativity. Well, one for freedom. That's how you stop trading time for money. That's how you take back control. When your income comes from multiple sources, you stop living in fear. You're no longer tied to a single boss, client, or market trend. You've got flexibility. You've got options. And most importantly, you've got leverage. Well, leverage gives you the power to walk away from things that don't serve you. Toxic jobs, bad deals, or burnout, because your life doesn't collapse when one stream slows down. You've built a system where your money flows from multiple directions, not just one. People are tired of being lied to. They're fed up with finance influencers selling overpriced dreams and empty promises. They don't need more buzzwords or overhyped jargon. Well, they need truth. They need real talk. They need someone to say, here's what works, here's what doesn't, and here's how to stop screwing yourself financially. That's what no fluff financial advice looks like. It's not about looking smart. It's about making you smart so you can make better choices, avoid the traps and stop living paycheck to paycheck. It's not about selling you on a millionaire fantasy. It's about showing you how to build your first $1, then $1,000, then 1,000 without getting scammed or going broke in the process. Most people were never taught how to handle money. They learn from watching others, and most of the people they're watching are just as clueless. So they fall into the same traps, overspending, borrowing for liabilities, chasing trends and trying to look rich instead of getting rich slowly and quietly. Authentic advice doesn't glamorize wealth. It demystifies it. For example, no fluff advice doesn't tell you to go buy a luxury car on finance because you deserve it. It tells you that your car is not an investment. It's a tool, and buying one that costs half your annual income is financial suicide. It reminds you that looking successful and being successful are two completely different games, and only one of them actually pays you. It also doesn't push the idea that debt is normal.
No.
It breaks it down and says if you're carrying high interest credit card debt, you're being robbed every single day. You're paying extra just to stay stuck. And if you want to build wealth, your first enemy isn't the market or inflation. It's your habits. It's your inability to delay gratification. It's your fear of missing out. That's what real financial education attacks. The root, not just the symptoms. When someone gives no fluff advice, they won't sugarcoat the truth. Well, they'll tell you that the reason you're broke isn't because of the government or your boss. It's because you haven't taken full ownership yet. It's not easy to hear, but once you accept it, you take the power back. You stop blaming and start building. You stop scrolling and start planning. That's where the change begins. No fluff advice isn't obsessed with showing off results. It's focused on teaching principles like how compound interest works, why cash flow beats speculation, why saving isn't enough, why budgeting isn't a punishment. It's a plan. And most of all, how consistency beats intensity every time. A good month of hustle won't save you if the next 11 are full of excuses. Wealth is built in habits, not hype. This kind of advice also doesn't pretend to be perfect. It talks about failure. It admits when things didn't go to plan. It shares stories of bad investments, wrong turns, and moments of doubt. That's what makes it trustworthy. Well, you don't learn from someone who's never fallen. You learn from someone who's fallen 10 times and figured out how to stand up 11. Authenticity means showing the full journey, not just the highlight reel. It means showing the late nights packing orders in the garage, the awkward conversations with clients when you mess up, the times you felt like giving up but didn't. That's what connects. That's what makes people listen, because they can see themselves in that story. And when they can see it, they start to believe. It's also about clarity. No fluff financial advice cuts through the noise. It doesn't use complicated charts or try to sound like a Wall Street banker. It speaks plain English. It says how much you're spending. Here's what you're making. Well, here's why you're stuck. Here's how to fix it. That's it. No buzzwords, no filler, just direct, honest advice that anyone, even a complete beginner, can understand and act on today. This style of advice also respects people's time. Well, it doesn't drag things out to sell a core pusher product. It gives value up front. It says, if you never buy anything from me, wealth killer, well, you'll still walk away smarter than you were 5 minutes ago. That kind of attitude builds loyalty. People come back not because they're being sold to, but because they're being helped. There's also humor in it. Not forced jokes, but real, relatable humor. Well, because money doesn't have to be this cold, serious thing. When you make it fun, well, when you point out the absurdity of some of our habits, spending $500 on a phone but crying over a 10 investment, it sticks. People remember lessons when they're told a bit of edge, a bit of bite, and a lot of honesty. Most importantly, no fluff advice comes from someone who's lived it, not someone who read it in a book. Not someone regurgitating facts from Google. Someone who's been broke, been stuck, made bad decisions, and figured out how to climb out, not overnight, but step by step. That's the kind of voice people trust because they know it's coming from real experience, not recycled theory.